Have you ever looked at a giant, incredibly diverse country and just wondered, how does that even work? How do they all stick together with so many different languages, cultures, and beliefs? Well, the answer often comes down to one powerful idea: federalism. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what that means and why it's the blueprint for unity for some of the world's most complex nations. Let's dive in. Okay, just imagine for a second that you're in charge of a country that's the size of a continent. It's home to hundreds of languages, a bunch of major religions, and cultures that are wildly different from one another. How on earth would you keep a nation like that from just falling apart? That's the huge challenge we're talking about today. You know, if you look at a map of India from 1947 and compare it to today, you'd see it's been in constant motion. The lines between states have been redrawn, the number of states has changed, even their names have evolved, like when the state of Mysore became Karnataka. This isn't just about changing some lines on paper, it's the real visual story of a nation that is constantly adapting and remaking itself from the inside out. So that brings us to the big puzzle, right? With all these massive internal changes happening over the decades, how has India managed to stay united? What's the secret sauce? What's the ingredient that keeps such an incredibly diverse place from splintering into pieces? That is the key question we're going to answer right now. To really get why this is such a big deal, just look at what happened to some other large, diverse nations. After 1989, giants like the USSR and Yugoslavia completely broke apart. Pakistan also faced major divisions. But India, with just as much, if not more, internal diversity, held together as one single country. That contrast really shows you how important its political structure has been. So what is this powerful framework we keep talking about? The answer is federalism. Let's pull back the curtain on this blueprint for unity and see how it actually works. Okay, get ready, because this is the core definition you'll want for your exams. Federalism is basically a system, an institutional mechanism designed to handle two levels of government at the same time. You've got one at the national level for the whole country, and then you have others at the regional level for the states or provinces. It's a system built entirely around balance. But how does this balancing act actually work? You know, federalism isn't just some vague idea. It's a machine built on a few core principles that are totally non-negotiable. So let's look under the hood and check out the mechanics of this solution. For federalism to really work, it has to stand on three crucial pillars. First, you need two sets of governments and identities. Second, you gotta have a written constitution to spell out all the rules. And third, you need an independent judiciary to be the referee. Let's take a look at each one. So, the first pillar is something called dual polities. Now, it sounds a little technical, but the idea is simple. It just means you have two sets of governments running at the same time, one for the whole nation and separate governments for each region. And the key is that each level is autonomous. It has control in its own sphere. So the national government might handle things like the army, while the state government handles local stuff like schools. And this two-government system allows for something really cool: two sets of identities. A person can be a proud Gujarati or a proud Jharkhandi, totally into their regional culture, while at the exact same time being a proud Indian. Federalism is great because it doesn't make you choose. It says, hey, it's okay to be loyal to both your region and your nation. Now on to the second pillar, the rulebook. In any federal system that works, the powers and the responsibilities of both the national and the state governments are laid out super clearly in a written constitution. And this document, it's the boss. It's the supreme source of power for everybody, making sure that neither side can just start making up their own rules and overstepping their boundaries. But you know, what happens when people disagree? That's where our third pillar comes in, and it's a big one: an independent judiciary. The best way to think about the judiciary is as the umpire in a game. If there's a fight between the central government and a state, or even between two states, the judiciary steps in, looks at the Constitution, the rule book, and makes the final call. This keeps everything fair and stops arguments from spiraling out of control. So those are the principles in theory, but here's the thing: just having a federal constitution on paper doesn't automatically guarantee success. The real-world test, the thing that really matters, is whether there's a culture of trust and cooperation holding it all together. Let's look at some examples. Let's compare two very different stories. On one hand, you have India, where a shared history and this powerful idea of unity in diversity helps the federal system to work. But on the other hand, you have the Federation of the West Indies. It was formed in 1958, but it fell apart just 4 years later. Why?
because it had a weak central government, a ton of political squabbling, and no real common identity to bind all the islands together.
Nigeria is another really powerful case study. Even though it has a federal constitution, there's this deep historic distrust between its major ethnic groups that has just fueled nonstop tension. When you have ethnic, religious, and economic divisions all overlapping, it puts a massive strain on the system, leading to constant conflict over who controls things like oil and political power. It proves that a federal rulebook just isn't enough if the people don't trust each other.
All right, we have covered a lot of ground. So, to make sure you are 100% exam ready, let's lock in the most important takeaways from everything we've talked about. Okay, here it is, your rapid-fire recap. Federalism is how you manage diversity using 2 levels of government. It allows for a dual identity, so you can be loyal to your region and your nation. The whole system is governed by a supreme, written constitution that divides up the powers. An independent judiciary acts as the umpire to settle disputes, and this is so important. The success of any federation depends on mutual trust and cooperation, not just rules. So now we've got the theory down. But how does all of this actually apply to India's specific, unique structure? To find that out, you are not going to want to miss part 2 of this chapter, where we will dive deep into federalism in the Indian Constitution. Hey, if this breakdown of federalism helped you out, do us a quick favor and hit that like button, share it with your friends and classmates, and definitely subscribe to the A1 Institute channel. Our whole goal is to make these complex topics simple so you're always ready for your exams. Thanks so much for watching.